All right, so Zenitsu versus Kaigaku. This is loosely based. Well, it's from the poster, right? But I've had to sort of move Zenitsu to the right a little bit. So it's not like a vertical one like the poster. I was struggling to fit it in. I wish they did them landscape instead. Obviously, I would wish that. But so we start with Zenitsu. He's down here, right? And his blade will just come across Kaigaku here somewhere. So we'll start with maybe his nose. He's kind of in profile, right? So we'll just do that nose, that wrinkly, kind of frowning nose. And sticking out here, kind of a curved line that way. And then it kind of comes down the front and down there. It's kind of like spiky down here. And they sometimes do like an extra sort of shadow sort of thing there. Looks just like a thicker line. And his nostril. And then there's like hatching on top of his nose just there. So he has like a wrinkle on his forehead. Well, a couple of them. He's frowning real heavy. So like that, right? And then his eye is just inside this part. So we get his sort of very dark Demon Slayer spiky eyelid line. So it's very spiky on top and thick in the middle. So spiky at the ends, should I say, and then thick in the middle. Very dark, heavy line. They normally do like an extra sort of thing sticking off each end, like an extra eyelash line like that. So we have an extra eyelid line kind of just in here. And then the bottom of his eye, just below, gap between both of them. They don't draw in everything. And then there's like some stress lines just around his eye as well. So he's looking up at Kaigaku. So the eye is like in here, like top left. So it just goes around. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle because Demon Slayer, they do these kind of angled things. So he's looking up, right? And his eye is unusual in that it's just done with shadow, like a brown shadow. So it's unusual, right? So we have to draw it in. It's done with color, but I'm using a black pen. So you just like curve a dark shadow like on top. Right, and that'd be brown. And then like all we can see of like a brown pupil. It's like kind of like that. And then there's a top part to it. See? So it's unusual. They have two sections. Brown and brown. And then everything else is kind of orangey yellow. Another sort of wrinkle on his nose there. And then, so his eyebrow goes underneath his hair, but I will draw the whole thing in, so we'll have to kind of draw hair over this. But it's easier to kind of just draw this whole thing first. So it's a spiky sort of fishtail shape. And it has textures on the end of it. Does look like a fish tail. That's what I always think of. So his other eye, barely visible right behind the nose. So they basically draw his sort of eyelash spiking that way up, right? It goes up because his head is turned up away from us. And then, so you can kind of see his eyeball, right? So it's just like around like that. And then his cheek there. And then the disc for his eye like that, barely visible on the side, right? Looking directly up there. And then we can see that brown shadow, like barely just there on top. And then the little half sort of circle thing there somewhere. fit it as best you can. It's very small because it's just turned away. So we can only see sort of like a bit of this eyebrow. So we got like his eyelid, and then this becomes his eyebrow, and it disappears underneath his hair. So you just have like the spiky front with some kind of textures just here. Goes underneath his hairline, so you can't see it really. So his mouth, just below the nose. So we got like gritted teeth. So kind of coming around here. And then it goes down, kind of like a square sort of box. And then around there. This side hangs down more. And then they give him like a bit of a shadow in the corner of the mouth. And then we get his teeth. And they kind of draw in the whole line nearly. And then the shadow under his bottom lip, just like that. Okay, so we can just see just a bit of his face shape just here, down to his chin. And then this comes around and just gradually goes to his ear. And he has like sweat and a cut. So there's like a cut here, like a scar, but it's a fresh cut, you know. And some beads of sweat and stuff just coming around. Like the eyebrow and stuff. Gives an idea of his movement as well. You know, the sweat's going that way, so that means he's going that way. So I guess, right, so we can see his earlobe. And a lot of his ear, not all of it. Just here. Just little sort of lines in the inside of the ear there. And his body goes off that way. So his hair then, they put a lot of effort into the hair for the poster. His hair doesn't look like this when it's animated. So I'll maybe make it a bit easier. So he basically has flat hair spikes, like square. So I'll just kind of clump a few of these together. Like I won't do it the way they do it. They really make it look more sort of realistic kind of for the poster. And there's like these little textures on the bottoms, like that. And then this comes like all the way around. So it's kind of, they kind of blow this way though, some of them. But first there's like smaller ones. Like that, and a bit of texture on them. And then there's some of his fringe that kind of cuts across his head. So it kind of goes here. Right, and then there's like a little skinny one here. And then there's some underneath that one. So we'll just bring this down across his eyebrow. And this goes there and then down. There's like single strands that flick across, but I'll leave them out because it just complicates things a bit unnecessarily, I think. So we'll just do this. You don't need them. It's just like an extra little touch they put in just to show off. They like, we're UFO table. They are called UFO table, right? Have I been saying it wrong all this time? So just making it a bit simpler, just for people. And then the front of the fringe then kind of blowing out this way. They have changed the animation game, these guys, I gotta say. I think there's another hair spike here. And then we have kind of the back of his head, so it just goes out from, yeah, it's kind of this, but so it goes there. So it's like this piece of hair goes in behind his fringe, kind of bumps down a couple of times. Kind of flicks out here, and then you get some more sort of square ends. Yeah, they put loads of detail in. It's kind of cool. Imagine if the movie was animated like this. I think we have an extra layer, actually. No. What am I looking at there? Oh, there's one. There's like just a couple, like underneath his ear there. So, and then we have like his orange kimono just flows off the page. And then we probably could see neck and his collar. So this is like neck muscles, kind of. So that's like, so his collar kind of just bumps down here and it kind of goes around, right? Around the neck. You know, and there's those white sort of lines. Cough incoming. I always cough when I'm drawing Zenitsu. Got like a pocket here. So that's kind of that. And then, so we see the orange gi kimono flowing off down here. And then, so there's all yellow triangle stuff. So I'll go this way, and then I'll go like that way, and then I'll flow it this way. So I'm kind of making that up now. But I would guess that's where it's going. So we got to go up to his hand now. So everything's sort of wrapping around. So he's got like his shoulder sort of bumping out here. Okay. Up to his, like it all it all curves around his flowing. It's a very loose piece of clothing, right? So it even like flicks out here. Right, and there's like extra sort of folding lines, and then like there's triangles and stuff. So like a triangle here. Here on the ends there's extra lines as well, but we'll do our best just to get in a couple of them anyway. There should be some down here too. Sometimes there's like extra lines like this just around the base of his sleeve, you know, this kind of thing. So the hand and the sword. So like, so I think he's got that black sort of area first, kind of coming around here. So his black sleeve, and then he's a white sleeve. And then kind of the palm of his hand here, holding the sword, right? So this is like his pinky on the edge, and the thumb is not visible. So it comes around kind of here. And then we'll go up to like his index finger. So each of these then bumping around, kind of shallow bumps. Do, 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 do. And then there's like knuckles on each one. Looks like sort of knuckle lines. Kind of like that. So then, so like the hilt of his sword, so it's kind of this disc that sort of curves around here, right? And then it has an edge. Okay, and that's the blade will go that way. But I'll just do the handle, so can't see the end of it because it's cut off, right? But I've drawn it before, so let's say we'll go that way, and it kind of curves, I think. So maybe that long. You gotta kind of imagine how long it is now. And usually it just goes across here, kind of round. Kind of that sort of shape. And then, so I'm looking at Kaigaku's as well. So I think it's like, does this. It has a little thing on it there. There may be an edge like that, sort of coming down. And it has those little tassels that come off. They both kind of have the same sword, basically. And then we have the triangles that come down. Classic sort of Japanese sword style. And sometimes, well, yeah, his one has this. I think Kaigaku's does as well. Like that. Now, so sword itself, so the blade, it's always tricky because they kind of curve a little bit. So we'll do one side anyway. All right, so I'm going to guess that long. So I think it's like 3 times the handle, is it? Or twice. Not sure. So I'm going to guess. And then it's got like a little bit that's like there, you know, that connects it in. And then we go again. And it gets kind of thinner. And it's kind of curving that way. So tricky enough to draw, especially freehand. But that's not bad. I have seen and I have drawn worse swords than that. And then, so he's got like the lightning section, but there's like a black, you know, line that runs, but the lightning is yellow. So I will just leave it as a sort of a standard samurai sword. And if we want to add lightning, we can. But just to make it easy for people, you can just do tree branch sort of lightning down that, which is perfectly fine as well. All right. That is Zenitsu. So Kaigaku, he's kind of up above with the sword coming down here. The swords are clashing in the poster, but I couldn't make it fit. So his head is like up here. So just above the sword, kind of. So we'll just do this, his big sort of demon eye. It's got a big spike on the end here. And it comes back down. Round it into there. So that's like the eye shape, okay? And this is like, it's a thick, dark sort of line. So it's quite heavy, the line itself. And then he's got like a big frowning eyebrow here. So it like, it's right by his eye. So it like comes down that way and up, I think. Up and kind of flicks down. And it's very dark eyebrow shape. I think it's black as well, so I'll color it black. There's like a bit of an eyelid line just in there. And kind of a dark shadow on the corner of his eye there as well. Right, so he's looking down, right? So the eye is here. And he's got that upper moon writing calligraphy sort of in his eye. Now, I'm not the best at this. So if you're able to do better calligraphy than me, feel free. That rhymed. So that's like the basic version. And then he's got like some lines around the bottom of his eye. Like so. Does he normally have veins in his eye? Hard to know. So his nose, just kind of very wrinkly, sort of aggressive nose. Kind of not as aggressive as Zenitsu's. I mean, like more in aggressiveness. And then comes out, down, into there. And they normally just do a little shadow. And his nostril there. And he's got all these like heavy frowns like coming out of his eyebrow area. Kind of looks a bit like a tiger. So all these kind of wrinkles and stuff coming out of there. So the other eye, so in behind the nose, we can see more of it than Zenitsu's. So we just go around this way, and it kind of spikes there. It comes down around, back into the nose area. Just up there. That's quite dark. Again, very thick. And then looking down. And the calligraphy on this side. Do my best. So it goes like this way. Down there. It's like a little sort of tree sort of shape. Right, and then he's got like the big wrinkly eyebrow then. Coming out there. Okay, so that's like his eye area for both sides. Tricky. So mouth open, sharp teeth, like real big mouth starts. He's a real big mouth, this guy. So it starts here, comes across the top, kind of curves like up and down slightly, like over, and it looks like his mouth is closed at the minute, but we open it up, right? So we curve down. It's like always reminds me of capital letter D. And then he has sharp fangs. So top teeth line. And then around, and they put a shadow in the corner of his mouth here. Just they make it look a bit sort of darker in here. Da, da, da. And then fangs on the bottom. Just like, and that's it. Just like a floating face. Change the movie, this would. Like if Zenitsu was just fighting a floating face. It would be scarier. How is your face like that, bro? What did Muzan do to you? And then his chin. I have to entertain myself sometimes. I'm just in a room drawing, like. So his chin here. And then a little triangle under there. And then his face just kind of like curves up. Like around his cheek. He's got a very round face. And it just goes that way. It goes underneath his hair, so kind of like goes out a bit. Down there. And then his jaw is like, goes behind his collar. That way. So then it's all about that hair. So he has long hair spikes coming across the face. And his handle of his sword is here. So we'll just go to about there. And there's hair in behind and stuff, but it's all just dark. And there's a bit of his ear in there. What is that? Is that hair or face? I think there's a hair spike on his eye. and then here. And then we go again. They all just seem to like come around onto his head. Like some veins there. These all hair around here. Some up the top. That's weird. Why is that different? It looks wrong. Okay. Spike here. Start with that. And then spike this way. Can just go up, I think. Then another one there. I think it just comes down around his head. I think we're good. I was worried there for a second. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Carving around here. A long one there. And then it's all clothing down there. So he's got like tiger stripes on his face that kind of like come across the face here. And they're done with purple, but I got to draw them in with my black line because that's what I'm using. So there, and we'll go here. So the most like complicated part of him nearly is his clothing. But I guess we got to do the hand first, don't we? Because it's like covering a lot. Right. So just beside, I'll do this hand. So he's holding his sword vertically. So just beside like his mouth and this part of his hair, we've got 4 knuckles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's like the line of his fingers coming down. That's gripping his blade. So like his index finger curves that way, and then his thumb is over the index, right? So the thumb curves around here. He's got really sharp sort of claws as well, but that's like his thumb, right? And then his thumb has a sharp nail on it, like that, and then fingers go down, start to go down at least. There, right? So let's see. So we go this way. It's a complicated drawing now. So who has stuck around? Who's drawing this far? Fair play to you. So then we have nails. And then like another nail. I really appreciate everyone watching all this stuff as well. Like, really do. It really like struck home when I hit the 1 million subscribers. So it's crazy. Really appreciate all the love and support. It means a lot. It really does. So that's his hand. Getting emotional. That's his hand. Right? No, it's not the full hand, but it's the bit that comes around the handle of his sword. So we can see the handle here. okay? And there's all details in there, but we'll do the rest of the hand, like get all this. So the palm of his hand is like here. You have this like W shape at the base of your hand. It's like this double bump thing. And then your wrist bones come down. When I say you, I mean him. And humans. And then I guess we should be able to see a bit of the handle just going that way. Okay, so like the top of it is here. And it's got that detail like his, so it goes so like across here. It's like a top edge, like a little line going down that way. And then we have that like little tassel or something on the end. It's just like two little pieces of string or something. Then we got the triangles again. So we'll just do some V's just to make it quicker. And then close off the top. These sorts of lines. It's like an edge that just comes down here actually. And they go that way. All right, so hilt. So the handle just goes into the, this is called the hilt, right? Am I wrong? Am I way off? Sort of wrist guard sort of thing. The guard down here. I always think of it as the hilt. All right, make it look 3D, just do an edge line. So just trace around that again. Like little details and stuff inside. So then his blade goes all the way down, and again it curves. So it does have a little gold section here again. Stop moving, page. Right, and then we'll just go down off my page. Best I can. And so then what would be the sharp end of his? So I'll do is maybe this side. And there's kind of forked lightning kind of coming down there, but that's like a whole thing, you know. So that would be an optional addition. It's not on the sword all the time. Okay, so like his arm kind of, we finished the arm. So he's got these kind of he's got lots of detail on his like clothing. So there's like extra jewels and stuff kind of on his wrist. Just coming around the wrist. And there's all this sort of bandage wrapped around his wrist as well. And this just goes off the page. So I can't really, so it kind of goes off the page. Yeah, it just kind of goes around up here. And then like lots of bandage wrapping just coming around then. And then he has a loose sort of sleeve that flows off, just curving around all this way. Very dark, black sort of clothing. And the bottom of it like just flies around here. So then we're going to fill in the gaps. So his shoulder curves around, right? That's his shoulder. And then it's his white sort of kimono section. So it's like it just curves around there. And then the side of his body kind of flowing in this way. And around here. And then that white, it has a white edge. So it just goes here. And then it meets the other one, which kind of goes that way. The other one, so it's like the other white side. So I think it goes underneath Zenitsu's blade, right? It goes off that way somewhere. I'll come back to that because it kind of disappears. So there, and then we have like all these clothing sort of folding lines just on his clothing there. And then we'll fill in the sort of gap in here. So he's got a white collar that sticks out from behind his neck. So we got like his neck here. And he has another like chain on his neck, kind of a thing. Well, we'll do the neck anyway. And his jaw should... Oh, he's got another piece of collar here. It's like his open Demon Slayer collar. Kind of steps down there. And then the outer side, so it goes this way. Back in here. And then we have that thing that's around his neck, so it goes there. There's like a blue jewel in there, like neck muscle in that side. It's complicated now. So in there, like his clothing is like one of the, they put a lot of detail into it. So he's got one of those things there, and it goes into a hole, and then goes up around his sort of shoulder, I think. Right, and then he's got a button here, and then like he's got all tiger stripes and stuff on this, but we'll just keep it simple and draw it that way. It's probably easier. Right, so this white piece, so it goes, oh, he's got like tassels. So there's like all clothing lines here. And his arm, he's an arm going out that way, but it's kind of covered by Zenitsu's. So this is just clothing all in here. Like his shoulders in there. So he's an arm that comes out. Yeah, I could leave that one not drawn in because it's right in there. Bandage claw, you might see a finger or something. No, it's kind of covered there. Talking to myself now. And then like his knee goes that way, I think. So then he has these like tied. It reminds me of, you know, Sasuke and Naruto. When he's like in his sort of, I don't know if you, maybe you know, maybe you don't. It just reminds me of that. It's got some like textures on it. And then like his knee is just like in there. So this is like, looks like all knee lines. Clothing. Oh, his ear. So his ear, we can just see a little bit of it in here. He's got like a very long pointy ear. And that's just black hair then in there. So I'll bring that to join that, so in behind. And that's his ear, and that's black hair. And then, so like any extra details, if you want to add lightning, you know, any of that kind of stuff. Wherever you think you might want to add it anyway. There you go. Kaigaku versus Zenitsu. Hope it's helpful. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.